Hello and welcome to the Infinity Saga and beyond. My name is Jordan Wiegand, and he's been with me every step of the way on this breakdown of Loki, which we can now call Loki Season 1. It's Matt Hartgrove.
Wow, what a journey. Is the journey better than the destination?
Well, I don't know. There's so many destinations by the time we get to the end of this episode. So to be determined. We are talking episode 6, the season 1 finale, entitled perfectly as For All Time, Always, written by Michael Waldron and Eric Martin, directed by Kate Herron, originally released July 14th on Disney Plus, and a runtime of 46 minutes. The synopsis, they give us this little WandaVision-esque synopsis here. The time is ticking in the season finale, which finds Loki and Sylvie on a date with destiny. What was your initial thoughts?
I loved it. I actually really enjoyed it as an episode. And I think it had to do with the new villain, which I guess I'm not really certain as to who he is supposed to be right now, because that was a bit I read a bunch of different little things that it was this person or this person. But it was a really good season. I'm happy there's a second season, and that's how they ended season 1, because if that had been the end of, say, just the series, I would have been a little bit like, I want more. But I'm happy that that's how they ended it, because I really enjoyed this ending of an episode, and I love the new villain.
Yes, played by Jonathan Majors. If that name sounds familiar, if you listen to our other podcasts, you'll find out why that is familiar. I like this. What?
Why is it familiar? Maybe I don't know.
It's we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it later here. We'll talk about it later. But my thoughts here were the same. I thought this was a really great episode. As we talked about last week, we said, hey, all they really got to focus on is, Mobius going back to the TVA and who's behind the curtain, right? Who's the wizard behind the curtain? And that's all they had to focus on in this episode. And they, even with 46 minutes, which, is long for a regular TV show, for a streaming show, people see that as short now because of things like Stranger Things being 50 some minutes an episode, stuff like that. But really, I thought this, again, we've raved about it this whole season, but just I thought it was paced excellently. And a lot of people some people were down that there wasn't a lot of action in this. I was like, did you really think there'd be that much action in confronting this guy? I didn't think so. It's going to be 2-on-1. I didn't think there'd be a lot of action. I expected pretty much what we got, which was a lot of talking and describing what's going on. And I thought that was a really great wrap up for it, So let's dive a little deeper into it here. So we open on the Marvel logo. It's doing its little thing, showing clips. And we also get the audio from the movies playing over the clips. And then we see a universe, and then we move over to the right, which I guess there's another universe. It's kind of hard to describe. And then on a rock in the middle of that is the Citadel. And we now have Loki and Sylvie, taking their last steps here to the Citadel at the end of time, which is confirmed that that's what it is. If you don't remember what that is, anybody, we talked about that last week as an option for what that Citadel or castle would be. And you get a little Miss Minutes jump scare here, which was nice. And, this is when she says, who is here? And that is he who remains, which, again, like I said, is one of the options of what we had at the end of last week. And she gives them an offer, each of them an offer where they can kind of get a spot in the timeline where they can roll together, offering Loki sovereignty and Sylvie just happiness here. Now, it doesn't seem like they were ever going to take the offer. They both reject it pretty quickly. Did you have any thoughts that maybe one of them would betray the other one here for this offer.
No, it was never a chance. They had to get to the He Who Remains, and I don't think either one of them were in the business of betraying the other at that point, because their idea was the same at this part of the episode. So they had the same line of thinking, and they had the same, I'm trying to think the best way to describe it. They had the same result that they wanted, or the same end goal at this point. Obviously, that changes as the episode kind of goes a little bit further into it. They have different ideas and theories, but not at this point.
Yeah, I didn't really think so either here. We then have the at the time Variance Authority. Ravonna Renslayer is then getting a meeting with Miss Minutes, who comes from the Citadel at the end of time and comes back, and she doesn't. Miss Minutes is really, I feel like, we kind of thought Renslayer was maybe the second in command here. Definitely seems like Miss Minutes is probably the second in command here, because she doesn't even really tell Renslayer where she was or what has slowed her down or anything. She's just kind of like on her own little I think I do want to know if Renslayer actually did know that the Timekeepers were fake. I'm starting to think maybe she didn't. But I think she still believed in what the cause was, the way she was acting last week. I think she still believed in what they were doing.
Yeah. I agree with that.
But yeah, Miss Minutes comes back here. Mobius comes in and confronts Renslayer, and they both accuse each other of betraying each other. Renslayer's like, hey, we were besties for the last 300 years or however long it's been. She just says, like, she actually says millennium or something, right, of friendship or whatever. And Mobius sees it more as a betrayal on her end, because she pruned him, right? And it doesn't get much more betrayal than that. Now he's saying that he's looking for free will by burning down the TVA. She said she's in search of free will her own way here, and she overcomes Mobius' attempts at pruning her, and she steps into a doorway, like one of the time doorways, with a tempad, and is off. Where do you think she's going?
I actually didn't even think of that while watching it. I actually, that's a lie. I thought she might have been going to the end of time, like where they were pruning people. But I don't think that's possible. I don't know if no, they can go there. I was thinking it's the void they can't put a point to. So I guess that was my initial thought. But it's also my only thought, because I guess I was more so into Sylvie and Loki with He Who Remains, that part of me didn't really think too much about everything happening at the TVA. The only thing I liked was how is it B-15? That's the
Yes, yep.
I liked the scene. I know we'll get to it, but I like the scene of where they showed other people in the TVA why Renslayer's like lying. That part I liked, but I kind of just, my focus was so much more on the three, He Who Remains and Sylvie and Loki, that for some reason, I guess I just saw that scene and was just like, she just got away. I just didn't really think about it, and I guess this was the first time where I'm now wondering, where did she go? Because we don't find out, do we?
No, we don't. Yeah, we have no idea where she has gone to, which is interesting. I'm sure we'll find out. That's part of the season 2 probably. Mm-hmm. But what's interesting about this, I want to get to what you just brought about, where they go to Ohio, and B-15 shows the other TVA troopers that Renslayer is the school vice principal. And what I like about this answers the question about the pen. Mobius really studied that pen a few weeks ago. And it's like a gift, one of her trophies of, one of her past lives, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Before she split off as a variant. So she has that. I'm guessing she's not mind wiped at this point, right? So she probably, I guess, remembers her previous life if she has that pen. But I thought this was nice. We got an answer to who Renslayer was. We got this. But one of the issues with the TVA, and I'm not going to say this is an issue like writing wise, like story wise. I think this is just an issue for that the TVA didn't think about, I guess, is that you can just go and find the variant of yourself technically, because these people go back in time. So like technically B15 could run into B15 if she's going to do another case. Now, again, they might try to assign these cases to people that are not going to run into themselves. But another one might look at like how this guy did, where he looks at the Renslayer variant and says, "Oh, Judge Renslayer." She's like, "What are you talking about?" So it's kind of the dangerous thing about using variants as your agents, don't you think?
Yeah. No, I agree.
Could lead to like unnecessary awakenings.
Yeah, but we just don't really find too much else about it, though. There's just could be any reason why they specifically do that.
Yeah, and I guess somebody pointed this out online, I think, but this is probably what they're doing when they're doing the court case, right? Like when they're doing the court case, if they're deciding if they're getting pruned or not, they're probably deciding then, like, okay, do we brainwash them and use them as a variant?
Yeah. Ooh, I didn't think of it. There's a lot that went into that episode, I guess TVA wise, that I haven't even seen anybody talk about. I think because it was so focused on Sylvie, Loki, and He Who Remains.
That's why we're here. So let's go to that storyline. He Who Remains is greeting Loki and Sylvie. You get this nice moment where the elevator is coming down and they're like really stressed. They're like, oh, geez, we're about to come face to face with He Who Remains. It's such an ominous name. And you open it up and it's, Jonathan Majors just chomping on an apple here, sitting in the elevator. And he gets up and introduces himself. He's a little nutty because he's been by himself in this castle. His only friend is a hologram of a clock, and he is, he's been there for a while, as we'll learn. But he, kind of welcomes them in. He leads them upstairs to his place. But while he's in the elevator with them, Sylvie attempts to kill him. But he uses his, TemPad to teleport away. He knows exactly when to do it, and he knows exactly what's going to happen, as we'll talk about right now, I guess, actually. It's on my notes now. So he does say he is just a man. He does bleed, and that's when Sylvie decides to try to kill him. But he knows all their actions, and it's kind of a nice reference, again, to the first episode. He pulls out the sheets that are printed out of like every word they say, just like we already know that they can have that from the machine, that they have to sign off on if this is everything they've ever said. So he already has that information. So he feels very comfortable in this situation. What was your take when the doors open up and you just see just a regular man here chomping away on an apple?
Why was he not blue like the comics?
I will say when we talk about Kang's not actually blue. He does have a blue mask.
Oh, actually, really? I
Yeah.
didn't know that. That's kind of cool. That's my only ever. Is just
what? Yeah,
Googling.
all you see of Kang is blue.
It. It wasn't anticlimactic. It wasn't disappointing. It wasn't amazing. It was just, I don't know. It was cool to me. I guess watching all the MCU stuff, you always ask after Thanos, it's who's the next big villain? Who's the next big villain? And to be fair, I think we'll get into it because I'm pretty certain you've read or know the same stuff, that I don't believe this was Kang. This was a variant of Kang.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know, but even then, it's nice to put like a face to the name at this point, because you have to assume this is what he looks like anyway. I'm assuming Jonathan Majors is playing Kang.
Yes,
Once we
that's
get
why.
to it,
That's why I was
so
saying, yeah, that his
it's
name should be familiar because,
it was
yeah,
refreshing. It was like, okay, we finally get to see him. We're gonna see some version of this guy in action. We're gonna possibly start learning, and I don't know. That's exciting because it's the next step. You know, we watched the first phase, and it was all about leading to Thanos and what Thanos is gonna look like, and he looks like Grimace initially, and like all this like, but it is. It's a very exciting time to finally get to see who this guy is. You know, we get to see him interact with people. We get to see what his personality is. And honestly, I kind of like I don't want to say it's like aloofness, but like I enjoyed how laid back almost this guy was. And I know, again, it's not the same character
right.
as who Kang's going to be, but it was fun to watch him even at the start where he was just like, he made himself, honestly, when I was first watching, I was like, dang, this is really powerful, until he finally just goes, I know what you're going to do because it's already written out here. But he really doesn't act like that initially. He does seem to act as though he is all knowing and he's incredibly powerful. And then as the episode goes on, we start to see it's not that he's all powerful, it's just that he is the one at the head of this and he knows exactly what's going to happen. And we'll get to it, but it is cool when he goes, I don't know what's about to happen now. Like this is the two possibilities, and it was just it was really cool. I was very happy to see it. Plus, it means we watched this show and we got the big villain at the end instead of us chatting here right now going, "Oh, it was just Loki. It was smart
Yeah.
Loki."
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Yeah, that was and that they introduced such a huge villain through a Disney Plus show. Is something that's pretty fun too. But yeah, what I was saying about why that name should be familiar if you listen to some of our other shows. When we did our original breakdown in December, which you were on, by the way, we did mention Jonathan Majors was cast as Kang in Quantumania. Sorry. So that is so once I saw him, I knew, okay, this is Jonathan Majors here. But this is my first experience with his acting, and he was really good. And what's fun about Kang as a whole is that there's so many variants of him. So every time that we are going to get a different one of those, Jonathan Majors can play it completely different. So this one, a little bit more, like you said, kind of like wacky, aloof type thing, because he's kind of flamboyant. Because one, it's already written out that way, right? So I guess he knows he has to act that way. So there's part of it. But he has been alone by himself, like I said. So he's tired. You know, he mentions that a few times there too. And his performance changes a bit once they get past that threshold that he'll say, you know, like, I don't know how this is going to act anymore. He kind of, you know, he kind of starts acting a little bit more, I don't know how to say it, different. He's just different if you pay attention to that part. And he explains the TVA origins here. So on Earth during the 31st century, other variant versions of himself discovered alternate universes and came together and you know, kind of at first it says like they share discoveries, all this kind of stuff, right? They lead to them just contacting each other, having this great thing. This is a reference, I think, to the Council of Kangs. This is a concept in the comics as well. In the 80s, this came out, but this is a here's the history of it, right? The Council of Kangs, this is from the Marvel Wiki, was a group led by Prime Kang that was tricked by Immortus, that's another version of Kang, into eliminating all divergent Kangs in the multiverse to ensure that Prime Kang's destiny would end up with him becoming Immortus. So Immortus is close to the version of Kang that we got in this. So He Who Remains is not usually Kang, but they kind of mix the two characters here. So you get Immortus, who is kind of like post-Kang at a point, and as you can see here, kind of like eliminates all these other Kangs in the multiverse so that way he can become who he's supposed to become. And that's kind of what we get here when the multiversal war breaks out, and it ends up with him harnessing Alioth to end the war, isolates his timeline, and then he creates the TVA to prevent further branches. So you can kind of see how they mix these two things together to be interesting. And I like the way they did it too. It's like this little, like, I don't know, silver piece of silver that was able to like change shape into, you know, Kang and what we're seeing, and you know how they just start off as regular people and then kind of get to them all out war. And this is the multiversal war that Miss Minutes was talking about in the first episode in the video. So it was all really, this was like the series that I feel like everything came together at the end.
It did. It actually felt like a complete storyline. It felt like a circle. Maybe not a circle is the best way to put it, because it puts you back at the start. I don't know, what shape would it be then? I guess I don't know. It's circle. It felt like what you did at the. It felt like what you did at the start got there at the end. It felt like everything you would want it to do, and I think that's, compared to the other shows. I also think, honestly, the fact that they ended the way a lot of people predicted, I think works, because then it kind of gets you off. It gets a lot of people off your back in terms of, oh, we need this and we need this to happen. It's like, no, you don't need this to happen. But
well, it's good when people predict it, because what it means is that the clues were there, right?
Yeah.
Like I said, there was clues building up to him, and that's what makes it work.
Yeah, that's true, and it's a big deal. It's huge to have it go that way, because now you can kind of put yourself in a section of, we got the perfect show. Like, that was, honestly, compared to the others, that was the perfect show. And I mean, we'll get to it, but they still give you more that you can look forward to movie wise and within the next show, actually, or the next season. I think the ending was perfect to get it to where you can sit there and go, okay, like, that was really cool, but also there's a lot of potential here for the very next, season of the next show.
Yeah, that's what I know that this is my favorite Disney Plus show, and this is your favorite Disney Plus show, and we know it's not Logan's favorite Disney Plus show. But it really Logan. Just was, it was everything I wanted from this show. And to introduce the multiverse, set up Kang, even though, and we get to see a performance of a type of Kang without it being the real Kang that we're going to see in Ant-Man. So it's like just kind of everything I wanted there. And what the two choices he gives them, right, is kill him and end the singular timeline, have the free will, but it will risk another multiversal war, and that his variants will try to continue to take over like they've done before, or succeed him in leading the TVA and manage the timeline to make sure that bigger threat doesn't get out. And our two characters end up on opposite sides of that, which I think was great. This is the conflict, right? The conflict so much wasn't, all right, we're just going to face the big bad. The conflict was, how do we know which one to do, right? She has been lied to her whole life. So Sylvie is just saying, that's another lie. That's another lie. And that's another lie. But Loki, as he says, he's a liar. And he can tell when people are lying, and that he doesn't think he who remains is lying. So that was just such a brilliant way to show their growth. Like, Sylvie has grown a bit, but she ultimately was just, I think, too young when she was taken away, that she has learned to not trust like anybody. And Loki has gone through this whole different journey where he has learned to trust people like Mobius, to trust classic Loki, to trust kid Loki, and to trust, I guess, even alligator Loki, but to trust Sylvie. And it comes down to this debate, and what's cool about it is with them both being on opposite sides, but they're also kind of the same person. They're variants of the same person, so it's almost like a internal conflict within yourself, but shown as two different people. But it was just, I thought, a good choice, and you get a little bit of action here where they have to fight, and Sylvie's not trying to hurt Loki. They're both not trying to hurt each other. Loki is more of a, let's talk about it. Let's think about if this guy's telling the truth. We have to weigh these options. And she's more of a, he's not telling the truth because nobody's ever told the truth to me, and I'm just going to kill him. What was your thought on how this shook out here?
See, I did feel like he was telling the truth, which I think we learned he kind of is. He didn't seem like the type of person. He honestly didn't seem like the type of person that was going to lie in regards to what was about to happen. There was like a sense of truth in how he acted. So when I saw it, I was like, come on, you cannot think that that's not true. Like, Sylvie seemed like such a smart character, but I think also her emotions ran a little too high at that point. And like you mentioned, she has been lied to constantly, and that's all she's ever dealt with. So why is this going to be any different? What's the point of believing him compared to believing what you've dealt with your entire life? And I knew it was going to end. It had everything to end in just a huge fight, which, obviously it did. And I don't know, it went exactly how I expected it to go, but I fully believed him because his acting was so great in regards to what he was doing that you could tell when he was being truthful or when he was doing something that was correct or incorrect. So yeah, I believed him when he was saying, and I was like, you can't, like, Loki, you can't let her kill him because I know she wants to do that. She wants to kill his ass. Like, that's not even close. But at the same time, I was watching it going, you got to do this, Loki. You cannot let her do this. Like, it's just not how it is. And unfortunately, we get to the next part.
Yeah, so we got Matt's favorite moment here where they plan to kiss on each other.
I hated that part. My favorite moment of that episode.
I was thinking about it the whole time when that was going on. First, He Who Remains says he has identified them as the best candidates to replace him and actually guided them to reach him. And this breaks Sylvie's mind, right? She's like, no, I did all of this myself, type of thing. He Who Remains is saying this is almost like he's laid out everything for them to do, where we've already kind of talked about how there might not be any free will in this, that Sylvie sees this as another lie because she can't handle the thought that she's been raging against the TVA, the thing this guy's created this whole time, and he actually let her do that as a way to test her and have her replace him. So kind of breaks her mind here. And he then reveals that they've reached the point where he no longer knows the future, and as the timelines you can see outside the window start to diverge here. And Sylvie tries to kill him, and like we said, Loki tries to prevent it. So they kiss, but I think Sylvie is obviously doing this, as we'll see, to turn him around. She gets the TemPad with her hand and is able to push him out through one of the doors. So I think Loki definitely wanted the kiss, not so much sure Sylvie did. She definitely used it to her advantage here.
Yeah.
And then she sends the TemPad to send Loki back to the TVA headquarters, and then she turns around and kills He Who Remains, and it unleashes the multiverse as we go outside the window and we start seeing all of these timelines start to diverge. And we go back to TVA headquarters. B-15 and Mobius are like, hey, there's no turning back now. And then Loki decides he kind of sits in there for a bit, and then he's like, okay, I got to go find everybody. And he goes up to Mobius and B-15. He's like, hey, he has done all of this. We can't have this going on. And at this point, I already know what's going to happen. Because right before Loki approaches them, obviously, you hear Mobius say to B-15, is that what he wants? Right?
Yeah.
So you're kind of getting that hint there. And then they don't recognize Loki. He looks up, and one of the statues that were the Timekeepers is now a Kang variant. And that was it. Cool. That was the end of the episode.
I actually thought that was a really cool like ending. I don't think we really mentioned it too much, but I think my favorite part of the entire episode still was when He Remains, is describing basically everything about the timelines, and he's like, a variant of myself found this out, and then he was little thing on his wrist. I thought that was honestly that was such a cool scene, but it also is kind of like you learning about the setup. It was like you learning about what was about to happen and the villain that was about to take place, and I thought that was, I don't know, that was so cool. But the ending, I hate that they kissed, but they used it to two separate ways. I think Loki felt like maybe, you're pretty right. I think Loki used it thinking maybe she would feel the same way, and that kiss would kind of deter her from what she was trying to do. Whereas she is probably using it. I think she did want to, but she also knew if she did that, she could get the upper hand, and then she could be able to get him into the
position.
Yeah. And I don't know. It was a really, really good scene. I thought it was fantastic. There's the entire sequence of events. And then I was sitting there going she did it. She screwed everybody. I almost wanted to see I almost wanted a He Who Remains variants to start popping up, or one of them to pop up and go, you really screwed everybody. You're going to start this whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So where do you think Sylvie goes from here? Because, as we go into season 2 here, she completed her mission, but she'll have to find out that she did the wrong thing, right? At some point. And, what's funny is people are kind of trying to figure out, did the universe that Loki got sent into with the TVA, did it overwrite the Mobius and B-15 we already know? Or is it now a separate TVA somewhere else? Because the TVA is kind of already outside of time, right? But also, when she pushed him into there, it wasn't, she hadn't killed He Who Remains yet. But the timelines had already started branching because they had passed the threshold. So is he in a different timeline? Or is it just that it's kind of like Back to the Future style, where it overwrites what had happened at the TVA because it's outside of time, and now that Kang variant has already taken over in just that short time because of that kill. There's going to be a lot to answer in season 2 with that. And we got word that Kate Herron is not coming back for season 2, so it will be directed by somebody else. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, Loki confirmed for season 2. We got a nice little mid-credit scene of it, where they put a little like a rubber stamp. Loki's coming back. Loki will return in season 2, and it's the first Marvel Disney Plus show to be confirmed for a second season. We talked about rumors of it having a second one, so it's nice to have those confirmed. And if those rumors are correct, they start filming in a few months here in January. So if that's the case, we probably get it at the end of next year or early 2023, maybe before Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania comes out. So we could have Kang and two things going on here.
When's his next appearance? Is it
Ant-Man?
Is it really? Jeez.
Technically, I mean, it depends. If season 2 comes out before then, it would be this, I guess.
Yeah.
And maybe, who knows? Maybe they've kept some stuff under wraps. Nobody actually thought he was going to appear in this episode, or I think some people had said that originally he was just going to be a mid-credit scene, but the pandemic allowed them to write him into the full last episode.
Yeah. Without the pandemic, it'd be so much sooner.
Yeah. But man, that was just great to see him. You know, He Who Remains is kind of like the good version of Kang in this, right? Like he's trying to prevent these other Kangs from taking over. You can also look at it as a bad version of Kang in the sense of he doesn't want any other Kangs because he already kind of won that war. So you can kind of look at him two ways there, right? Like, is it just for his own power, or is he doing this for the good of everything?
I think it's his own power, but that's just the villain.
Yeah.
That's like
and I liked how he did the little name drop too of how he said he's been known as a conqueror. You know, he's had all these different names.
Yeah, it was it for an episode that was a lot of just like three people talking. I just felt like there was a lot that happened. You really got to see He Who Remains. You got to see his attitude. You got to see his viewpoint on basically him describing the multiverse. You know, he basically sat there and was described what it is to everybody. You know, what to expect. And I do think Loki's on a completely different. I think he's on a completely different universe, like in terms of it, because I don't know. I don't see Marvel as doing like Back to the Future-esque type deal.
Yeah, because they've already kind of said that a few times that it doesn't work.
Yeah, so it's like if he was in the same timeline, I fully believe Mobius would have remembered. I don't think it wouldn't have been like a memory erase where it's almost as if nothing was found out about the TVA. The only difference is that in this universe,
they're not actively pruning. I don't think.
Yeah, it's like he's
different.
Yeah, so I'm pretty certain he's just in a completely different timeline at this point, which is probably going to be part. I actually think the majority of season 2, I actually would think is going to be a lot of Loki and Sylvie trying to. You know, like Sylvie might be on the run and she's going to see the implications of what she did. Loki's probably going to be trying to find Sylvie. I think it's going to be a lot of cat and mouse almost between the two of them, where he's trying to figure out why he's in this universe, or maybe he's, you know, that's what my opinion of the
So you mean
season.
She won't say no because of the implication?
I would still love it if any of those characters, like if I would love to see them get Rob McElhenney or Glenn Howerton into the MCU. This is my
yes, let's do it.
Just especially Glenn Howerton would be such a great villain, but
yeah, he would.
You get a lot of It's Always Sunny fans. There'd be tons of memes that you could really generate off of that. But yeah, it was a fantastic show, and it's honestly. It's also the only show where a second season makes sense.
Yeah, the other really shows were definitely meant to be one-offs. This one, I think, was always meant to be possibly open for more. I think people originally thought it would only be one because they were like, okay, how many times is Tom Hiddleston going to come back as Loki? But he made it pretty clear in an interview this week that he would like to play Loki for as long as he can.
Mm-hmm.
So that leads the open possibility for more than 2 seasons if you want. We'll see how the second season goes, I guess. But yeah, I don't really know where it goes from here because there's rumors he shows up in Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, but I can't see it being this Loki. If so, because this Loki is, I feel like you can't continue that story. Like, I feel like all the stuff that we just saw is going to continue into season 2. Like, I don't think we're going to pick up a lot of these threads in the movies. The threads I think we'll pick up on the movies is that now, as we saw at the end, the multiverse is going on. There's a reason why now we have these rumors of, Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield coming back as Spider-Man in Spider-Man No Way Home. And it makes sense in this universe now, in this multiverse, I guess, because of the way that this opened up. There's a possibility of another multiversal war, and maybe that is the big storyline that we'll go with instead of the Infinity Saga. It's going to be this multiverse story. I think there's going to be a
multi-universal saga.
Yeah. I think there's going to be a few branches here that we're talking about. Not a branch we have to prune, but we have a branch storyline, I think, where a lot of the big cosmic fun stuff is going to be multiverse stuff. You know, you're going to have Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, Loki. You're going to have this through line of that being multiverse things. And then I think you're going to have the realistic stuff where we're going to look at maybe Thunderbolts, you know, with whatever Valentina is putting together with John Walker and Yelena and, you know, all of these characters there. I think that's going to be the more grounded storyline, and then you're going to have the multiverse storyline as the so I don't think there's going to be one true like storyline the way we had with Infinity Saga. I think it's going to be 2 or 3 things kind of going in and out with each other that might still tie all up together. I don't know. But I think we kind of have a few storylines we're going towards in. And I'm really excited now. I think if they were waiting to release a Spider-Man trailer due to Loki ending, which I can't really buy that theory because, you know, even though Loki's huge and it's on Disney Plus, it is on Disney Plus. It's not like a huge show or a movie that everybody's going to have watched already. So I don't think they're like, well, we can't show off Toby and Andrew until they already know the multiverse is happening. But if that's the reason why they've delayed it, the trailer, that would be cool with me because I think now in this next trailer, you could show Toby and Andrew with Tom, and you'd be able to say to all the people that are casual fans, hey, look, we have 3 Spider-Men in this. And all the hardcore fans will be like, it's because Sylvie killed He Who Remains. You know, like it now has that reason and doesn't spoil the end of Loki.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
And now we have, you know, Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness that's going to be probably dealing with this because Doctor Strange, let's not forget, is also in Spider-Man No Way Home. So we kind of got this storyline that's all coming together here. And really excited to see what happens. And whenever that Spider-Man trailer comes out, I will for sure have an episode up about that with my reaction and maybe a few other people's reactions on what that trailer is like. But for now, we have a break. We have no new shows until August 11th when What If comes out. And that makes sense now on why that came out after Loki as well, because I do think ultimately
it's a part of
it may not tie into everything, but I think it's like, okay, now we can release this show because the multiverse is a thing now. You know, it's no longer one universe.
Well, I saw some people say that What If is going to be like Doctor Strange finding out about, you know, the multiverse. Maybe it's not exactly. It might not be like the multiverse's opening, but maybe some mystical person says something or does something and he finds out about that there are other universes, you know, there are other timelines and they all have different things, and that's like a part of it, and then we see the different ones, and I'm excited for that show. Actually, that show looks really cool. Like I think it looks, I know it's not obviously the, you know, human characters, but I think it looks really, really cool, and I actually think it's going to be better than everything besides Loki.
Yeah, I think that I think What If looks really great. I think the animation looks great. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. It may not ultimately tie into everything, but I do think that they're definitely using the ending of Loki to say, okay, that's why these things are happening. But maybe it does tie in, and we'll see how that ultimately, I guess, goes. But I think the future of the MCU, for everybody that was like, oh, I'm going to stop watching after Endgame, I think that it's only going to be up from here still. You know, we just still have so much. We haven't even introduced the Fantastic Four yet. And let me just say, Kang is one of their big villains. He's also an Avengers villain. He is a member okay, the way that this is laid out, he is a descendant of Reed Richards, who is Mr. Fantastic. In the comics, he is Kang is called Nathaniel Richards. So he is like a, like he said, 31st century. So he's hundreds of years later than Reed Richards. But that ties in now with the Fantastic Four and stuff like that. So we have kind of like our first taste of that with Jonathan Majors here as Kang, or He Who Remains. But yeah, I'm just really excited to see how many different ways he can portray the same character. Kind of like the ways we got Tom Hiddleston playing a few different versions of Loki, and we had different actors playing Loki as well. But I think it'll mostly be Jonathan Majors. And so many of these Kang variants are usually wanting to conquer, so it should be a whole bunch of fun.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess that's where we'll wrap it up. So we'll see how that goes. I still have to do my Black Widow review at some point here before we get to the August 11th for What If. So that should be good. I think there's 10 episodes of What If, maybe like that. And I think that show has been rumored for a second season as well. So strap in. We got a lot of stuff coming up. And if you want to follow us on Twitter, you can reach us at TO Infinity Saga or facebook.com/Infinity Saga Beyond. Or email us marvelplusrecaps@gmail.com, and we will catch you next time.